to the messy kitchen, where again tonight we'll be making something delicious from Abel and Cole. We've got it all laid out neatly here, a lovely collection of orangey, greeny, colourful ingredients and a very clear and helpful cardboard cutout telling us what to do and when to do it. Now, I thought vegetarians were extinct, but apparently they're not. Apparently they're still among us, denuding our fields and our forests like giant hungry rabbits. So in honour of these lost brethren, we will make a vegetarian dish tonight, which in this case is Abel and Cole's Aduki bean chili with carrot and parsley rice. Hopefully it will be delicious, as everything else is from these particular farmers. So step one in tonight's dish is to peel and finely dice the onion. Now, a lot of people wax lyrical about onions and say that they cause crying and tears and all manner of nonsense. That doesn't happen with me. The only things that make me cry are Celine Dion and Toyota Priuses, which are all tragedies. So chopping up the onion should be quite an easy event. Attack it vigorously, make a collection of slices, stack them on the chopping board and tackle them from a different direction. So you end up with a little collection of slices and cubes which will blend nicely into the dish. It won't dominate your food. The last thing you want is chili that tastes like onion. It should be just a mild ingredient. It should not be the main event. So here we go. Onion done. Second part of step one is to trim off and dice the celery. Now, I've never really understood celery myself. It just seems to be crunchy water, but many vegetarians disagree. So we're going to be true to the recipe tonight, and we're also going to dice the celery and add it to the dish. It should add texture. It should give us something to chew on, which is always welcome. There we go. Everything neatly diced, chopped. Toss it in the bowl. Make sure we isolate any leftover bits of onion skin. They are not welcome in our dish. It's a messy kitchen, so if we drop a few things, it's not really a problem. Over here, we've prepared a pot with 2 tablespoons of butter so that we can slowly cook the onion and the celery. Now, the recipe says olive oil, but we've chosen to use butter because a bit of fat in your life is good. It adds flavour and it's actually more healthy than any low-fat option. So what you want to do is mix your ingredients in the butter, in the pot, and then put it on a low heat. So I'm going to turn it down now, after it's warmed up, down to 5. Because you want it to cook slowly and softly. Now is not the time for crispy onions. They belong on hamburgers, but not in our chili. So most of the flavour in cooking actually comes from the spices that you add, as we all know. But with Abel and Cole packs, we need to be a little careful because the volumes that you get in the box are much larger than the numbers represented in the recipe. So what we need to do here is add a teaspoon of coriander seeds and a teaspoon of ground cumin to our nicely bubbling oniony celery mixture. Now, it's important to actually make measurements quite precisely if you're going to do a recipe. Otherwise, your flavour gets dominated by one ingredient that stands out inappropriately. So, I am, as we've seen previously, very accurate with my teaspoon measurements. There's 1, and next up is the cumin. I often wonder if universities will contact me to be a reference for accurate measurement, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm expecting a letter in the mail any day. So there we go, we've added our cumin and our coriander. The recipe box also comes with cayenne pepper, but that's something we use so frequently in the messy kitchen that we've got one open already. And cayenne pepper is something you add to taste. If you want it really spicy, then add a bunch. If you want it soft and gentle and elegant and sweet and delicious, then add a sprinkle, which is what. So here we are, we've also added salt. I always stop the video when we add salt because I don't want people to know exactly how much I consume. And we've also added a little bit of pepper to taste. Ours is going to be a bit of a mild chili in honour of our mild vegetarian friends. So we want to leave that cooking softly and gently. It's not sizzling madly, it's just bubbling away quite softly, and we're going to leave it for another 3 to 4 minutes, we would say, so that all the flavours mix in together nicely. That's good because in the meantime it gives us a chance to prepare some of the other key ingredients, which in this case is the beans. Now we need the beans in this recipe because the beans are the biggest source of protein and iron, and we all need protein and we all need iron. Otherwise we become pale, weak and useless like a starving albino goat, and we don't want that to happen. So beans are important. As we all know though, beans are dangerous. Different people react to beans in different ways. Some people are able to consume beans without any adverse side effects whatsoever. Other people become walking biohazards, ready to explode at the lightest touch. My wife's very tolerant, fortunately, and she hasn't killed me yet after I've exploded during the night and injected her out of bed, which is fortunate. When you're using beans in a dish like this, you don't really need all of the juices, otherwise you'll turn the whole thing into a bean flavoured stew, which is not the point. So we're going to drain them as much as we can using the lid of the tin, and then we're going to get sophisticated and use this device here, which we call a sieve. I don't know where the sieve in our kitchen came from. I can only assume that a better cook than us visited once and bought such a fancy device, and I'm grateful to them. So we give the beans a bit of a shake here, make sure we get rid of that unwanted liquid, and then we'll store it briefly and get ready with the passata. What we do at this stage is we take these two ingredients. If I can only open the passata. Oh my God, must have been welded shut. And we're going to put these two things in our nicely bubbling pot over here. It smells great. You can't smell it through the video obviously, but trust me, it smells delicious. If you have a quick look in there, you can see how the ingredients have taken on the colour and the texture of the spices that we've added. So that's going to be the core of our dish. In go the beans, and then in goes the passata. Once again, the recipe's not explicit, but everybody with a brain knows that such a collection will need to be stirred, because ingredients do not disperse themselves randomly without support. So here we go, we give it a quick stir, make sure everything's mixed up nicely and distributed throughout your pot. And you can already see this is starting to look like a chili. It's got beans, it's got red tomatoey paste, it's got texture, and it looks like it's going to taste delicious. So, no need to prod it endlessly, as I've been told many times. We get it there, we've got it hot, we put the lid on, and then we leave it for a good 15 minutes to cook and stew and absorb flavour. So, our chili's bubbling away nicely on the stove, and we're up to the point where we need to prepare the rice. Now, of course, it's not normal rice with Abel and Cole because they want us to be healthy. So in this case, our rice is going to be made of carrots. You can make noodles, you can make rice, you can use food processors, you can do this, skin this cat in many ways. But we are taking the homegrown, simple, mechanical way of producing carrot rice. So I've already done a couple here. I'm just going to do one more quite quickly. Add volume. First thing is to scratch away the nasty skin on your carrot, not the lovely skin on your fingers. And then you want to nip off the little end of the carrot, this end. Don't chop this end off because it gives you something useful to grip while you're doing the grating. This is a very valuable messy tip. Of course, this isn't normal rice. Normal rice isn't orange. It's quite small. Even a Japanese person who heard you call this rice would think you were insane. But in cooking vegetarian, we need to be creative. We're almost there. You've got to watch the fingers, because finger flesh is not vegetarian. And if you add it to the dish, your guests will not be happy. So that's about as far as I'm willing to go in terms of bravery. And what we're left with here is a nice little stack of carrots underneath this grater. And according to the recipe, we need to take these carrots and slip them into a pot. Which I have done. Get the other little bits of leftover hiding carrot from within the grater itself. And you're left with a nice pot of potentially tasty rice. So that's over here. What we need to add to the rice is a little bit of cold water, not hot water, no need to boil any kettles. Just give it a splash. The recipe says 2 tablespoons, but it's really not that critical. Water is not like spices, it's a simple benign substance, and we can get away with a bit of inaccuracy in our measurements in this case. So there we go, add a bit of rice to the carrots. Fight with my stove a little bit, get the temperature right. And what we want to do is slowly warm this water just to soften our rice. We're not going to cook the carrots until they're a sodden, soggy mess. We're just going to warm them up, gently heat them until they're still crispy and al dente. So the last 2 ingredients go into our dish as the pots reach their final temperature. We need to add some parsley to the carrot rice to give it a bit of greenery, a bit of health or texture. You need to chop the parsley finely, which I am doing here, better than any machine. It's good to mangle your parsley as you do it. Create more cuts in the leaves. Get more flavour into your dish. There we go. We don't need these bits. These bits are just silly. Not even an elephant would eat them. Again, good idea to watch out for fingers at this stage. Parsley is slippery little stuff. You don't want to chop off a critical piece of your anatomy. It doesn't go well. So there we are, ready with the parsley, which is going to go in the rice. We also have, from Abel and Cole, a mandarin. And the mandarin needs to be squeezed thoroughly into our chili dish. So I've chopped it in half, and I'm going to grab it and squash it like a steel vice. So we're just going to head over here to the stove and add parsley to our carrot rice. You can see there's a little bit of froth on the water there, indicating that it's just warmed up nicely. So we're going to add our parsley. We add the parsley at the end because you don't want the parsley to get too wilted. It's a substance that's quite soft and fragile, so if you put it in hot water for a long time, it will turn into mush. We don't like mush. Mush is bad. So we stir through the parsley and the carrots all together in the pot, and then turn off that heat. We don't need that anymore. That rice is done and ready to go. Last step is to take our chili and add the mandarin, which will give it a nice little citrus flavoured kick. You can see that it's been simmering nicely here, bubbling away quite happily on its own. I'm just going to give it one quick stir to make sure that all the watery bits at the top are mixed in with the dense half-cooked bits at the bottom. And then I'm going to squeeze the mandarin. I do enjoy this. Imagine this is the head of a Prius driver towing a caravan. It gives me great joy to squeeze vigorously. That's the first part of the mandarin, and now this is the second. Oh, that's going to make it delicious. It's going to add a sweetness and a juiciness to the dish. These people in this Abel and Cole kitchen know what they're doing. Mexicans witnessing this cooking adventure may disagree, but we live in London. We can do whatever we want. So here we go. We've added the mandarin and we're just going to stir it up nicely. And our dish here is almost ready to go. So we're just going to take a quick pause and prepare the dishes for serving. And then we'll be back in a second to show you the finished product. So now we have our 2 pots ready to go. Rice obviously goes on the bottom in every single dish. That's one of the ingredients. So here we go here, rice, carrot rice. Very colourful, very healthy, low in starch, low in carbs, but not, thanks to Abel and Cole, low in flavour. Here we go, 1 bed of rice ready. Second bed of rice ready. And then we get to the main event, the chilli itself, which is looking delicious. It's got a nice thickness to it, a nice, rich, heavy texture, which is going to make it delicious and yummy. You don't want watery chilli. Watery chilli is awful. It's like a poor soup. You don't want something too thick that you need to slice with a knife. What we've created here is the ultimate vegetarian chilli. I'm just going to spoon it out onto the plate. This is going to look almost exactly like the picture in Abel and Cole's catalogue, if not better, obviously. Because that's how things happen in the messy kitchen. And there we go. Look at that. Picture, food. So that's our dinner for tonight. Amazingly healthy, amazingly delicious, and extremely exciting. So that's all from the messy kitchen. We say cook happy, eat healthy, and live messy.